As I heard before my introduction, I am the member for Ferny Grove, a great seat, and I acknowledge many of the members from Ferny Grove in my electorate from the schools here in attendance and all the other schools also. And as the Minister for Agriculture, Industry, Development and Fisheries and Minister for Rural Communities, I'm privileged to be with you here today. I've done this role before I was a minister and also previously when I was in the Senate as a federal Member of Parliament. I chaired the Senate chamber down there as well. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to once again chair this Assembly. So I call the Youth Shadow Minister for Transport and Main Roads.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this Youth Parliament supports that all new vehicles sold in Queensland must be electrically powered within the next 5 years, and autonomous self-driving vehicles are banned from Queensland roads, and all public transport should be made free to use for anyone living in a major metropolitan area. To start with, new vehicles sold in Queensland must become electric within the next 5 years. A reasonable goal with the main benefit of keeping our planet environmentally friendly. This benefit includes other sub-benefits such as lower greenhouse gas emissions and lower noise pollution. The benefits are reducing pollution. Electric cars are saving the environment by reducing the sheer quantity of emissions. This continues into the fact that the production of these vehicles is starting to produce less gases to save our innocent planet. Sticking with the pollution-reducing side, the engines in these vehicles are quieter, reducing noise pollution. It is time for these reforms to take their place in Queensland, indeed the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Youth Member. I call the Minister for Transport and Main Roads.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I want to talk to you about the appalling suggestion that we should be using only electric vehicles in the next 5 years. Did you know that electric vehicles are much more expensive to purchase than our regular petrol and diesel vehicles? This will put more financial pressure on our already struggling families. By forcing families to purchase these vehicles, we are also forcing them to get rid of their old cars, creating more waste in our communities. At the moment, there is not adequate resources available for widespread charging of electric vehicles, and much more infrastructure would be needed to support this. It's unrealistic that this would be ready for our enormous country by 2028. While electric vehicles can be cleaner to run, it is not guaranteed that they are being charged with renewable energy, and more should be done to support the development of renewable energy in our communities instead. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Youth Minister. I now call the Youth Member for Tenterfield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How safe do you feel on Queensland roads? I definitely wouldn't feel safe with self-driving cars on Queensland roads. Multiple autonomous self-driving vehicles have been tested throughout the world. Some of these tests have been fatalities for some people, including a self-driving test car in Arizona which killed a pedestrian. How many more of these fatalities will we see if we allow for autonomous self-driving vehicles on our roads? There is also a concern of the opportunity for cyber criminals to be able to hack into and use self-driving vehicles as a weapon, to block roads or as a defence mechanism against Queensland. Another concerning issue is with more and more firefighters with cobalt poisoning, what measures are in place to reduce very harmful chemical fires in these vehicles? Even though self-driving vehicles are a bit further in the future, we need to ban them before they occur. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Youth Member. I call the Youth Member for Diamantina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the youth member for Diamantina, and I draw the attention of the House to the proposed mandate that all new vehicles sold in Queensland must be electrically powered within the next 5 years. I'm against this topic and will convince you to take this matter into consideration. My first point is that electrically powered cars are more expensive than normal cars, causing people to save up more money for an electric car. All car owners in Queensland will not be able to afford to purchase an electric car over the next 5 years, and this could lead to financial stress and debt. You will also have to add an extra power source to your house to be able to power your car. This upgrade would be quite expensive. To power your car, you will need a standard power point, a cable, and an EV Level 1 charger. Another reason I'm against this argument is due to the lack of charging stations currently available. With Queensland being such a large state, travelling in an electric car could become dangerous if your car was to run out of power on a long trip, leaving the driver and passenger stranded. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, youth member. I now call the youth member for Sandstone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the attention of the House to the proposal that public transport in metropolitan areas be made free. Free transport would absolutely reduce the number of cars on our roads. More people would be inclined to take the bus or train for free fares. With decreased vehicles on the roads, reduced emissions would be produced to protect our environment. Cities would be saved from constant traffic that take up entire expressways. It would rescue cities from being completely turned inside out. Without the worry for ticketing, bus and train entry and exit times would be smoother, allowing for shorter transit times. Imagine minutes saved from your daily commute every day. And let's not forget the cost of living expenses. Free transport costs will most definitely help alleviate this growing problem. If there were free transport, traffic and stress would decrease, enhancing well-being for all. It is time for all public transport to be free. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. I now call the youth member for Amity.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. The Shadow Minister for Transport and Main Roads moves to support the following argument, that autonomous self-driving vehicles are banned from Queensland roads. I strongly disagree with this statement. Autonomous self-driving vehicles are the way of the future. They are also our way of demonstrating how far humans have come in the use of technology in the field of transport. These vehicles could also even be classified as more reliable drivers than most humans ourselves. They can't drink and drive, they can't fall asleep, and they can't get distracted. I will then add that even if autonomous self-driving vehicles are less reliable than humans now, inevitably, in the future, they will be. That is, if their creation isn't stifled by the proposed ban. Autonomous driving will also reduce the need for car parking in the city, as everyone will be able to share cars, and it will also help open up the lives of those currently unable to drive by themselves due to ageing or disability. In conclusion, the argument that the Shadow Minister for Transport and Main Roads moves to support is not taking advantage of technology available at this point in time and is definitely not looking ahead and planning for a better future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. I call the youth member for Storm.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to speak in support of the motion that autonomous self-driving vehicles are banned from Queensland roads. It is important to understand the policy context. Currently, autonomous self-driving vehicles are not banned on Queensland roads. At the same time, the technology isn't at the required standard for car makers to release fully autonomous vehicles for driving on Queensland roads. But it is likely that the technology will come in the near future. We need to be prepared to ensure that they are banned before that occurs. The main reasons to ban them are the safety of Queenslanders that will drive these cars is not guaranteed, and it is a risk for others, not just the drivers or people in the car. Its system could malfunction when it's least expected. It could then swerve into other people's cars, which could lead to serious injuries or worse. Another issue is the impact on jobs.
Major metropolitan areas have always relied on Ubers or buses to take them to where they need to go. But with self-driving cars, these will no longer be needed and will most likely go out of business. In order to address these issues, it is proposed to ban all autonomous self-driving vehicles from. It is recognized that when the time is right, self-driving cars will make people's lives easier. However, that time is not now, and we must act to ensure the safety and jobs of Queenslanders and ban all autonomous self-driving cars from our roads. Thank you for listening, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Bonner.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the audience, and especially decision makers of our great state of Queensland, I stand before you today to express my deep concerns regarding the proposed transport measures. As an 11-year-old, I may not propose the same level of expertise as some of the esteemed adults here, but I believe that every voice, regardless of age, should be heard. The plan to make new vehicles sold in Queensland electrically powered within the next 5 years raises several important issues. While it is true that electric vehicles have many benefits, we must also consider the challenges that come with this transition. Firstly, not everyone can afford electric cars. Electric vehicles are often more expensive than traditional cars, and not all families can afford to buy them. This could lead to a situation where only a few people can afford to drive, while others are left struggling to find affordable alternatives. Secondly, what about the infrastructure needed to support electric vehicles? We need charging stations all over the state to make electric cars a practical option for everyone. Building such a vast infrastructure will take time and resources that may not be readily available. Furthermore, we must not forget about the people who work in industries related to traditional vehicles. If we rush to eliminate all non-electric vehicles, many jobs could be lost. We need to think about how this transition will impact these hard-working individuals and their families. Instead of rushing to a complete ban on non-electric vehicles, let us focus on finding a balance. We should encourage the development of electric cars while also supporting research to cleaner fuels and hybrid vehicles. This way we can gradually reduce emissions and protect our environment without causing undue hardships. In conclusion, let us not forget that change takes time. While the idea of having all new vehicles electrically powered may sound appealing, we must carefully consider the impact on affordability, infrastructure, and jobs. By finding a balanced approach, we can ensure a smooth and sustainable transition to a greener future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Before I call the next member, please keep an eye on the clock. You have 1 minute, and I'll need to start being a bit tougher on closing the debate at the minute conclusion. So please, during your speech, glance up and have a look at the clock, either on the wall or in front of you. I now call the youth member for Spinifex.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I would like to share with the House the concept of banning autonomous self-driving vehicles. We cannot put our lives in hands of AI. Even the slightest miscalculation would lead to a more catastrophic accident than human error would ever normally inflict. Would you put your trust and safety into something you can't socialize with or talk to? Would a robot car pick up a stray pedestrian work best in severe weather conditions? What if there were a computer malfunction? Malfunctions in self-driving cars would increase the death rate by thousands. There are also statistics indicating that self-driving vehicles have already been involved in accidents, including some with serious injuries and fatalities. Most importantly, self-driving vehicles will put truck drivers, taxi drivers, Uber, Lyft, and delivery drivers out of business. Business controlled by a robot, self-driving vehicles to be in Queensland would be a mistake. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Esmeralda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the youth member for Esmeralda, and I rise to speak against the motion tabled by the Honourable Shadow Minister for Transport and Main Roads, that all public transport should be made free for anyone living in any major metropolitan area. Public transport is used a lot by Queenslanders every day. This use earns us approximately $360 million per year, contributing to our economy. This revenue pays for the repair and upkeep of schools, parks, roads, and public venues in the state. However, if we made public transport free, where will we find the money for public facilities? One obvious area would be tax increase, burdening financially struggling families. Is that what we want? I say no. Making public transport free is poor economic management. A far better solution would be to make it more affordable. Free public transport will lead to overcrowding, furthering strain on transport services. It will stress car industries as there will be no demand for cars, causing major job loss. From this, we can see the major negative impacts of the Minister's proposal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Tallabudgera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am here to speak about the cars in Queensland economy and that they should be made electrical by 2028. The reasons why I speak here to address this issue is because I think it would help Queensland's area and would stop increasing gases. It has been stated that in National Geographic websites, greenhouse gases have been increased 70% since 1970 and until 2004. I think that a major contributor to this is everyday society. If cars were made electric, it would reduce greenhouse gases emissions. Some other impacts have been harming wildlife and placing pollution in the economy of Queensland. It would also provide better lung care and quality of life. This is another reason why electrical cars should be all over Queensland. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Armadillo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am the youth member for Armadillo and I draw the attention of the House to the proposed mandate that all new vehicles sold in Queensland must be electrically powered within the next 5 years. It has been suggested that in order to create the lithium batteries electric cars need, we may struggle to do this as we do not have access to enough lithium. The making of electric cars also creates more carbon dioxide emissions, which is the opposite of what is trying to be achieved, as well as electric cars being very expensive and would leave people disadvantaged if they cannot purchase a new car within the next 5 years. There is also not enough charging points in Queensland, and if we were to install more charging stations, where would the money come from? Would they have to raise taxes to get the money, or would they get the money from other things like education? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Woomera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to support and bring to the House our motion of transport reforms. The main benefits of electric cars are reducing environmental pollution and saving costs. Electric vehicles produce fewer emissions, which helps protect our environment. Additionally, they generate less noise pollution, making them quieter. We also raise concerns about the potential for more destructive accidents if there are any miscalculations by self-driving cars. Mr. Speaker, proving our theory even more, in April of 2022, there had been more than a shocking 1,100 car accident deaths since February 2021. And as the population of Australia grows, more cars are bought for transport, rising the amount of road fatalities that happen per year. On another note, providing free public transportation would have positive effects on the community, addressing issues such as traffic congestion, pollution, and accessibility. It would also provide those who are less fortunate in these expensive times with an easily accessible mode of transport, reducing the cost of living for those in need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Comet.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and fellow citizens, today I stand before you as a 12-year-old that wants her voice to be heard. I want to express my concern about the proposal to ban autonomous self-driving vehicles from our roads in Queensland. As a member of the younger generation, I believe it is crucial to embrace progress and innovation, and that includes the development of self-driving cars. Firstly, these vehicles hold incredible potential for enhancing safety on our roads. Did you know that most accidents are caused by human error? By introducing autonomous vehicles, we can reduce the risk of accidents caused by distracting driving, fatigue, or even drunk driving. This means fewer injuries and saved lives. Secondly, self-driving cars offer a great solution to transportation challenges faced by many, including the elderly and people with disabilities. Imagine a future where these individuals have increased independence and mobility, where they can go wherever they want without relying on others. By embracing autonomous vehicles, we are promoting inclusivity and improving the quality of life for all members of our community. In conclusion, as a 12-year-old who dreams of a better future, I urge you to reconsider the proposal to ban autonomous self-driving vehicles from our roads. Let us embrace progress, improve road safety, enhance accessibility, reduce traffic congestion, and stimulate economic growth. Together, we can pave the way for a brighter, more innovative future for Queensland. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Tasman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dear Mr. Speaker, I ask you, are we not here at Parliament to make the lives of Queenslanders easier? This is the reason why all public transport should be banned in major metropolitan areas. Making public transport free for residents of Queensland is a great start. Let's start to take more responsibilities for these issues around public transport. Let's remove the car parks during peak hour on the highway. This will create a more convenient way to live. Free transport would provide more parking space and improve Queensland's economy, and would give the community more space to have physical activity in our lives. Our neighbourhoods would be more accessible, and people could save money in their pockets to provide for more important things. Clean environments and less pollution around our homes is desperately needed by Queenslanders. This will create less traffic congestion and parking difficulties, which is mostly common in metropolitan Brisbane. Congestion on the roads costs the economy nearly $20 billion annually from people wasting time in traffic. More people using public transport increases activity in the cities. Less people on roads equals less fatalities and would save more lives. This is why all public transport should be made free in metropolitan areas. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Etna.
Thank you, Speaker. I am the youth member of Etna, and I am opposed to the topic of public transport should be made free in major cities, and will convince you to take this matter into consideration. My topic is that public transport should not be made free in major cities. Where would the money come from? The most obvious solution would be the government, meaning other government supports would not be funded. Free transport would be helpful for people who are struggling with money. However, people who have money could be paying for public transport, and the money saved could be used to support these struggling families. Finally, if public transport was free, more people would use it. This would lead to more mess such as graffiti and permanent damage. People may take it for granted and be disrespectful to other passengers and transport staff. Therefore, public transport should not be made free in major cities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Ballindine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am the youth member for Ballindine. I think that autonomous self-driving vehicles should not be banned from Queensland roads because it would reduce the number of accidents. For example, if you had a late night out at a friend's and when you're driving home, you accidentally fall asleep, your vehicle may swerve off the road and hit a tree. Accidents like this could cause death or serious damage to the road and property. Autonomous vehicles have a high chance of preventing this from happening and would keep you safer on the road. Also, autonomous vehicles do not speed, so the number of speed-related accidents and deaths. My second point for why I believe we should not ban autonomous vehicles is because it would give disabled people more freedom. They would get where they want to go easier, and it would not have to buy special cars with special modifications to get where they need to go. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I now call the youth member for Kelly.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and fellow citizens, today I stand before you as a 12-year-old girl with a voice that wants to be heard. I want to express my concerns about the proposal to make all public transport free for anyone living in a major metropolitan area. While it may seem like a wonderful idea at first glance, I believe there are important factors to consider. Firstly, making all public transport free can have serious financial implications. Who will pay for the costs associated with running buses, trains, and trams? If the government decides to cover these expenses, it could result in higher taxes or reduced funding for other important services like education or healthcare. As a young person, I understand the value of responsible financial decisions and ensuring that resources are allocated in a fair and balanced manner. Secondly, free public transport may lead to overcrowding and decreased efficiency. If everyone can use public transport for free, it may become more difficult to find a seat or even get on a bus or train during peak hours. This could result in longer travel times and frustration for commuters. It's important to strike a balance between accessibility and maintaining the quality of service for those who rely on public transport every day. Furthermore, making public transport free might discourage investment in alternate modes of transportation, such as cycling and walking. Encouraging active and environmentally friendly forms of commuting is essential for our health and reducing pollution. By solely relying on free public transport, we may overlook the benefits of promoting sustainable transportation options. Lastly, providing free public transport to everyone in a major metropolitan area might not be equitable. Some people who can afford to pay for transportation might end up getting a benefit that they don't necessarily need, while those in more disadvantaged communities may still struggle with other pressing issues such as access to education and healthcare. It is crucial to focus on targeted solutions that address the specific needs of different groups in our society. In conclusion, while the idea of free public transport for all may sound appealing, it's important to consider the financial implications, potential overcrowding, impact on other modes of transportation, and the need for targeted solutions. As a 12-year-old girl who dreams of a fair and balanced future, I urge you to carefully evaluate these factors before implementing such a policy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, and I call the last member, the youth member for Banksia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the youth member for Banksia, and I rise to oppose the motion to ban autonomous self-driving vehicles from Queensland roads. Banning would be a mistake for many significant reasons. Firstly, if we had self-driving cars, we'd be supporting greater independence for individuals and families across Queensland. People with disabilities that currently cannot drive would be able to. Parents wouldn't have to have the stress of not being able to drive their kids to school every day, which would make life so much more easier. Secondly, with careful planning and appropriate infrastructure, we can help avoid car crash fatalities. In the last year alone, 275 people died in car crashes in Queensland, and more than 4,800 were hospitalised. Most new cars today already have driver assistance technologies, which help to save lives and avoid injuries such as lane keep assist and emergency braking. And with ongoing technology advancements underway, we should see the number of accidents reduced, avoiding human error and making roads so much more safer. While there are many more benefits for Queenslanders, this is why we need to implement autonomous self-driving cars in the near future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, youth member. That exhausts the list, unless there are other speakers. If not, I'm going to pose the motion. But before I do, can I congratulate you all? You did exceptionally well. I'm very impressed. So the question is that the motion moved by the Youth Shadow Minister for Transport and Main Roads be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those against say no. No. I think the noes have it. A division is called. Ring the bells. Order, close the bars. The question is that the motion be agreed to, of which a division has been called. Will the government whip please advise that the government votes are for the ayes or noes?
50 noes, Mr. Speaker.
Will the opposition whip please advise the opposition votes are for the ayes or noes?
38 ayes, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable youth members have resulted in the division, which is 50 noes and 38 ayes. The division is resolved in the negative. I now call the youth leader of the House.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Considering we are in adjournment, I call the first youth member for the adjournment debate, which is the youth member for Harrow.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today I bring to your attention the issue in potholes and the issue they are causing on our roads. My friend has experienced the effect of potholes on our roads last year. My friend was going home from the beach in their car with all of their family in it. Hit a big pothole, they lost their steering and caused damage to their car. It cost $200 to get a tow truck and the repair cost $2,000 from hitting the pothole. Each year in Queensland, 6 million people have driven over potholes, with 5 million people driving over potholes regularly. Potholes can make the driver lose control of the cars, which caused accidents on our road in 2022. 297 people died on Queensland roads. I wonder how many were these caused by potholes on our roads. Potholes can cause a serious damage to our cars, which can cost a lot of money to repair. Damage that pothole can cost include a bent tire frame, broken suspension, wheel damage and more. My research tells me the average pothole only costs the government approximately $270 to fix. So we need to fill up these potholes so there's no more accidents on our road and no more damage happening on our cars. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I call the youth member for Yarraman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Bonnie Staveley and I am a student councillor of Launton State School. Today I would like to share with the House why I think that all chaplaincy programs should be considered for federal funding. Chaplains help students find a better way to deal with issues like struggles with schoolwork, problems at home that are causing them worry, and strategies to help with building and maintaining friendships. Our school chappies provide hats, shoes, and school uniforms for people that don't have a lot of money. They also spend lots of their personal time to make lunches for people in need. Right now, our chappies are helping more than 400,000 Queensland students, and more than 67% of Queensland state schools have a chappie, but some don't because they are not receiving enough government funding to support the programs. It makes me feel very sad for the children that are missing out on the chaplaincy support that they could really benefit from having in their lives. It is important not to just give funding to expensive schools. This is a very important issue in schools. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Mulga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the youth member for Mulga, and today I'd like to share with the House what Ferny Grove State School is proud of. Ferny Grove State School is proud of many things, but today I'd like to share a bit about our environmental group. The group is called the Sunflower Seeds, and we formed it to teach younger students how to take care of our local environment. We are encouraging younger students to learn about the environment around them through environmentally focused activities such as nature treasure hunts and nature art. This provides an opportunity for younger students to become passionate environmentalists and begin a lifelong journey of caring for the environment. We hope to expand the number of students involved to create a stronger force for a positive environmental change. By sharing this, I hope this inspires you to make a positive changes at your schools too. Together we can create a greener and brighter tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Parabina.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I come from Griffin State School and have some ideas to share with the Youth Parliament to support the future of local kids to provide an active, safe and improved environment to live in. Our Griffin community is relatively new and a growing area with lots of young families and children. The young residents have observed a couple of issues. Firstly, the children in the age group 9 to 15 do not have access to any open sporting fields. The only sporting grounds available is for club sports. Many children have small backyards with limited space. Not having free open space to play in is an issue for children's growth, health development, and outdoor freedom. Another challenge for Griffin children is a really scarce amount of bikes and e-scooter pathways. If bikes and e-scooters travel on footpaths, it causes serious hazards for pedestrians. An investment in bikeways would help keep Griffin kids safe. In conclusion, Griffin is a great place to live in. We're a young community with much potential. It is important that young kids have facilities that keep up with growth. Sporting ovals and safe bikeways will help our community play safely together. Thank you for listening.
I call the youth member for Kurrajong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm standing here for you today to show you my interest of why we should include and acknowledge all genders. Firstly, I propose to you today of making wider varieties of sports open for more genders. This is quite significant for our children of our society, since some sports are not inclusive with having different genders participating in different events. Secondly, with more sports open for both genders, it's giving the opportunity for children to choose from a varieties of sports, so children can get more exercise. By offering a range of sports open for boys and girls, we could change the sporting future into a much more sustainable society. Thank you for your attention.
I call the youth member for Undalla.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to inform the House of the housing crisis in my community. I live in Sandgate and it is such a lovely beachside community. However, when I take my dogs for walks along a big green cricket field near my house, I see the most unexpected thing. I see a small tent. The small tent is next to a tree with a single chair. Sometimes I see a man there getting ready for bed or eating. Sometimes he is tidying his tent. When I return home, I have a bedroom and bed to sleep in, and I have my dinner in my dining room with my family. It makes me wonder why I get to live in a house and this man has to live in a tent. There is data to suggest that 12,739 young people just like us are without homes in Brisbane. This is because houses are becoming way too expensive. Rent price has increased by 14% and house prices have increased by 23%. How can some people afford that? If homelessness can happen in my neighbourhood, then it can happen in yours too. I would like to see the prices of houses going down, and in the meantime, a safe place for these people to sleep. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Maranoa.
Thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. I'm in the House to inform you about the matter of homework in your primary years of school. When you're at home, you may do your homework, and it's a review of what you have done at school for the past week or have worked on that day with your teacher. Your knowledge of primary school is the foundation of life, and it is important to remember it for the future high school, university, jobs, etc. When you're in your primary years of school, it is most important because you learn a lot of new subjects. It also keeps your knowledge of English, spelling, maths and science, your main subjects, at primary school and through to high school. This is my reason why I think homework is a good extra review in your primary school learning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Verbena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm here to address the issue of period poverty. Period poverty affects 1 in 5 Australian women. Due to this, companies such as Share the Dignity Australia are trying to prevent period poverty and raise awareness around the issue that creates physical, mental, and emotional challenges for women. Millions of Australian women are outraged at the prices of sanitary items. For example, $30 for regular items and as much as $60 for reusable. Due to those prices, some Australian women use newspaper, tissues, and much more as sanitary items. In conclusion, all Australian women should have a say in what happens when it comes to sanitary items, and all schools and public bathrooms should provide sanitary items for free or a reduced rate, and we need to create more awareness around the issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Malula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I strongly believe hospitals and children's hospitals do not have enough staff to support their patients. This topic has been frequently brought up and I believe it's time to do something. Staff are not supporting some patients. This is because of the lack of staff and this is leading to more deaths because of untreated patients. The government are not taking action on this topic. Because there are not enough nurses, the people that do work have to do extremely long shifts and don't get home until really late. This is unfair to doctors and nurses, and they need more people to help. Because of coronavirus, hospitals have been really busy and lots of people who are at high risk were not taken care of. This dramatic event led to many deaths just because of the little amount of staff. In conclusion, the government need to hire more nurses. They will see a huge improvement in patient care. Thank you for your time, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Yamba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to draw the attention of the House to youth crimes and how to decrease the number of crimes in Queensland. In favour of changing the consequences of young offenders allegedly stealing cars, assaulting residents, and committing murder, more strict punishment should be put in place. Putting them in jail isn't the answer to this problem, unless they have committed a serious crime. They should have a criminal record only if they are found guilty with clear evidence. It will be removed after 5 years. Parents are responsible for how their children behave, and how they are raised would affect what they would become. Many citizens believe the offender's parents should be fined. In doing so, it would not affect the young offender. Many parents are frustrated about the matter because they found a loophole in the youth justice system. Parents are vulnerable because they don't have power over their own child or children, proving that even many parents need a change. I'm raising a point on why we need to toughen the guidelines on social media platforms. Social media has the copycat effect, which would influence younger kids on the platform to do the same as the offenders. A few videos have been taken down, but most clips haven't been taken down at all. The amount of videos or posts they take down affect the number of kids watching the videos. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Limestone.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to be here today to congratulate Underba State School on their innovative intergenerational program, Underba Connect. I am a lucky participant in this amazing program. It's an enriching social experience for both students and our grandees. Our name for the elderly residents of Inverpine Retirement Village, located across the road from Underba. On a Friday afternoon, students who have volunteered in this program visit the grandees and engage in exciting activities with them, like drawing each other and sharing life stories. This program also helps form community bonds. Our grandees get invited over to our school to special events like the Easter Hat Parade and Grandparents' Day. Both the students and the grandees look forward to it every time. Of course, such a valuable initiative requires dedicated staff to develop the program and supervise interactions. Mrs. Plank, one of our deputy principals, is our program leader and is particularly passionate about this project. I strongly recommend this program continues for many years to come, as it has already enriched the lives of the students and the grandees in just a few short months. So again, congratulations Underba for this amazing wellbeing initiative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Yilpilly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to inform the House about the new opening of new walking and cycling tracks. The 1.7 million project includes a new bridge and 1.4 kilometers of pathway that link walking tracks of Mungara Reserve and Sweeney Reserve. The project also completes the missing link of the footpath of Ron Thomason Park to Creekview Court in both Lawnton and North Pine Golf Club on Nelson Road. Therefore, a celebration of these new walking and cycling tracks will be held at the 8th of August. The residents seem satisfied, with one saying that one of the best parts of living in Moreton Bay is that you can have all the luxuries of living in the suburbs while having access to our spectacular local environment. Another also witnessing locals using both the walkways and cycling paths already. Once the pathways get more popular and well known, there's no doubt that it'll be more popular and commonly used. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Nebo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to draw the House's attention to an increasing problem that has been raising alarms all over Queensland: youth crime. As the numbers of police are gradually decreasing and the numbers of children becoming youth criminals across the state are rising rapidly, the government needs to take action before it's too late and gets completely out of hand. I hope this isn't how we want to raise our next generation. Criminals, regardless of their age, do not obey the laws, they break them. So there is no point in putting more in for them not to be followed. Implementing additional laws would be useless and a complete waste of time. The government needs to step up their game, and there needs to be harsher consequences. They may be young, but they're still making bad choices that have a negative impact on the community. The consequences they are given do not do anything to stop them from committing further crimes, but in fact, they encourage them. We must ensure that the consequences handed down fit the crime and are used to discourage further criminal activity. Thank you for your time today, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Venture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to share with the House about Sacred Heart Sandgate's 130th year of education. 4 days ago, on the 17th of June, Sacred Heart celebrated a school fair which was based around the 130th anniversary. Many community members came together to celebrate. The school fair showcased its association with the community as well as contribution to childhood education. Students from Sacred Heart School enjoyed the festivities by showcasing dances, choirs, and instrumental groups. They also made contributions such as donations and prizes to assist in the day running smoothly. As students, we strive to learn and value our education in a community that is supportive and strong in its commitment to Catholic education, which is exactly what this celebration was all about. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to tell you about the amazing 130th celebration of Sacred Heart School.
I call the youth member for Myrtle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm the youth member of Myrtle, and today I submit that the study of psychology should be a part of the curriculum, as it is a necessary life skill for students that helps them to create a meaningful life and navigate challenges. If we're at school to learn, why don't we learn what drives our learning? The mind. Psychology is a study of the mind, and it teaches you to understand your thoughts and emotions, giving you a toolkit on how to handle them better. It is estimated by the Australian Institute of Health and Wellbeing that 44% of the Australian population aged 16 to 85 have experienced a mental health disorder at some point in their life. The cost to the community and government is huge. I believe learning psychology earlier in life can help prevent these cases rising and lead to a happier and healthier society. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw attention of the House to address the issue around tasing people who are either underage, elderly, or anyone who cannot handle the shock. According to an incident in 2011, a 17-year-old boy was attempting to defuse a fight between two girls in a school cafeteria when, according to a video of the incident, the school resource officer shot his taser into the back of his neck. This sent him to the ground falling. He suffered from permanent brain damage. Another point of concern is that the elderly are more likely to suffer from a weak heart, and the shock of being tased definitely wouldn't help. A solution I recommend is for the victim or anyone who is calling the police for help should state the age and any health issues of the person if known, along with the police having further training and understanding around the use of a taser. Tasering anyone can cause seizures, abnormal brain function and potentially fatal heart irregularity. So for everyone's sake, please consider my point of view. Thank you for your time, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Laidley.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, today I want to speak to you about something very important, school sports. You may be wondering why a young kid like me cares so much about this topic. Well, let me tell you why. Firstly, school sports are more than just games and exercise. They teach us important values like teamwork, discipline, and perseverance. When we play sports, we learn to work together, support each other, and strive for success. These qualities help us not only on the field, but also in our classrooms and in our future careers. Unfortunately, many schools lack funding for sport programs. This means fewer opportunities for us to participate in different sports. We have proper equipment and receive quality coaching, increasing funding for school sports will open doors to a wider range of activities, helping us to discover our talent and passion. It will also allow schools to organise competitions and tournaments, fostering a sense of community and school spirit. So I urge you all to join me in raising awareness about the importance of school sports and advocating for increased funding in this area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Yapar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to inform the House on the motion of banning uniforms in Queensland. Uniforms must be banned, and these are the reasons why. Uniforms are unnecessary and way too expensive, but lowering the price is not effective, because what is the point of putting all this effort into making these uniforms and selling them for $20 to $30, which is still expensive? Also, in case you forgot, parents or single parents must pay the weekly expenses like rent, bills, and tax. And now with the cost of rent rising, parents or single parents must pay rent whilst it's rising and now pay $100 or more for uniforms. Approximately 95% of parents think uniforms are too expensive, which should be enough for you to see how they are too highly priced. We claim to be a multicultural and democratic society, yet you force kids to be the same, act the same by wearing the same, and we have no voice about what we wear. Kids cannot express themselves or wear their religious or cultural clothing. If we do not ban uniforms, in my strong opinion, schools are choosing conformity over individuality. Even if we cannot ban uniforms, they should at least be optional, and if you disagree with the fact on banning them, I will continue to believe we must. Since we claim to be a multicultural and democratic society, don't just say we are, show we are. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Call the youth member for Hawk's Nest.
I would like to speak to you about rental price increases happening right now in Queensland. Something needs to be done about the rising cost of the rent. The ABC reports that in Brisbane, the average rent has increased by 13.5% in the last year, with the current weekly rent being the $427. The Australian Bureau of Statistics report that the average weekly income in Brisbane is only just double this amount, leaving families with not much money for other essentials like food, petrol, power bills, and phone bills. The cost of rent is not the only issue. There are not enough homes for the rent to keep up the rising population. This is increasing the number of people who are homeless in Queensland because they have nowhere to live. Homelessness has risen by 22% in Brisbane, with up to 9,700 people sleeping on the streets on any given night. The government needs to do something now to help the rental crisis that Queensland is currently going through. Thank you, Madam / Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Lockyer.
Thank you and afternoon, Mr. Speaker. I'm here to raise awareness about inspiring young children to participate in sports. This could lead up to our youth aspiring to be part of our Brisbane Olympic Games. The athletes participating in the Olympic Games show children incredible traits such as teamwork and sportsmanship. Olympic Games are important to bring peace to everyone around the world, and we want to show this to our youth. It's important for children to participate in school sports so they can one day aim to be in the Olympics team. To raise more awareness and inspire youth to get involved in sport, we could get athletes from sporting teams to go to primary schools and talk about why the Olympics is so important. Only 6 out of 10 children aged between 5 and 14 years old participate in sport out of school. If we want great Olympic Games in the future, we must change this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Nobby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone. Today, I rise to inform the House about the lack of play areas for older children. In my local area of Sandgate, we actually have nothing for preteens except for a lame skate park. Older children deserve playgrounds especially designed for them. There's a great need for more challenging and intense playgrounds for preteens. Designs which include a flying fox, spinning spiderwebs, or rock walls, to draw an interest of older children who still enjoy going to the parks with their family and friends. I believe that every suburban park that caters for younger children should also be inclusive to older children. Having a playground designed for older children encourages outdoor play, which is extremely important for social interaction, as well as physical and emotional well-being. Preteens should not be forced to feel embarrassed to play in playgrounds that are obviously planned for very small children. Please listen to needs of not only the preteens of Sandgate, but also the older children of everywhere. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Hazelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I am here to talk about a worldwide problem, animal cruelty. At what point does a small cute animal become something you want to harass, hurt or kill? Did you know that over 250,000 healthy animals get euthanized yearly in Australia? Now, euthanasia is completely humane if the animal is terminally ill or in constant pain. But we're talking about healthy animals here being killed because they can't find homes, or sometimes because of old age, even if the animal is just a few years old. In Queensland alone, 55,000 to 60,000 animal neglect/cruelty reports are made annually, which is a huge problem. Something people need to remember is that animals are a living thing and they do indeed feel pain. I will never understand how people do not think that animal abuse and/or cruelty is not a big problem. That is why more laws and regulations must be put in place before this gets any worse. Offenders caught being cruel to animals should be sentenced to jail time or issued heavy fines. Organisations like WWF, the RSPCA, and the Animal Welfare League help animals struggling with these problems, and the government should fund them to help these poor animals recover and find a safe and loving home where they deserve to be. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call the youth member for Lantana. Is there anyone on the speaking list that I've not called? The question is that the House do now adjourn. Those of that opinion say aye. Those against no? I think the ayes have it. It's just the way you said aye, we might have had to stay here all afternoon. Honourable youth members, I commend this youth parliament on the high quality of today's debate. You've spoken confidently, conscientiously and effectively, and I believe our future is in good hands. We may well see some of you as members of parliament in the future. In a few years' time, when you vote, you'll be electing a member to be your voice in parliament and to vote on laws which will affect everyone. I encourage you not only to vote, but also to personally be involved in your community and to advocate for the values and the causes that are important to you. Get used to having your say. There are many ways to be involved in democracy in our state. If you see there is a problem or something that's not working, take responsibility for it. Join an action group or start one. Sign a petition or attend a community meeting. You might think about joining a community group or even a political party. One day, you might even stand for election to Parliament. Finally, an event like this is not possible without many people going to great lengths to make it possible, and they deserve our sincere appreciation. So firstly, let's acknowledge our teachers and say thank you to them for all the help they give you in getting ready for today. So a big here for your teachers. Also, let's thank our parliamentary education team, Maria, Kate and Marjorie, for everything they've done to make today successful. And lastly, but most importantly, students, congratulations on your speeches and your excellent behaviour. I can tell you've worked really hard to prepare yourselves and your speeches for today, and it's all paid off. Give yourselves a big here. Hear. I declare this Brisbane North Schools Youth Parliament closed.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the students of the 2023 Brisbane North Youth Parliament, I would like to thank you for the time you have spent with us today.